It's 12 o'clock. The attendees do seem to be punctual. It does seem to be filling up, even though not that many of the names look German. Got to combat those stereotypes. Great to have you. Let's get this started. Thanks a lot for joining, Dean.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot everybody else who's dialed in and who's just dialing in. Thank you all for joining. Let's quickly talk about what this is. So we do this once a month, every first Wednesday of the month at 12 o'clock, as a super short and snappy format over lunch break. We are bringing together one of the founders that we're working with from Antler to talk through what it's like to start a company with Antler and to get it straight from the founder's mouth, not the horse's mouth, and to really understand what it's really like. So format will be as follows. We have exactly 12 minutes. Dean will kick it off with a quick introduction on who he is and his own background. We'll talk a little bit about Tapline, the company that the team are building, and kind of where they stand. And then we'll go into some quick questions, and towards the end, open it up for questions from the audience. To all of you in the audience, just feel free to use the chat or the Q&A, fire away at any point throughout, and we'll cover as many questions as we can. So let's get this timer going and let's go. Dean, tell us who you are and what you're building.
Good. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. So my name is Dean Hastie. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. Previous career spent in investment banks across South Africa and Germany, then made my way into venture capital industry, and then took the plunge to build Tapline for the last 20 months. So effectively what Tapline is a digital funding platform that allows B2B and B2C SaaS companies to raise non-dilutive growth capital in 48 hours by trading their future subscriptions. So it's a fast way for these companies to optimize cash flow, extend runway, or to accelerate growth. The Tapline model also offers real-time KPI, or most important KPI dashboards for these SaaS clients, where they can monitor their CAC to LTV, their liquidity ratios, MRR growth rates, etc. In terms of stage, we are entering our seed stage now. We have raised over just under 32 million euros to date, 30 million euros in debt, and just under 2 million euros for our OPEX and to develop the product.
Awesome. So you are a little bit of an kind of in your cohort, but in general within Antler of not unheard of, but less usual configuration. You and Peter, you joined already as a team. You had very clear idea of building this business.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit kind of about your experience in finding your team within Antler.
Yeah, sure. Just a little bit. I mean, as you already mentioned there, our one co-founder of Tapline, Peter Grouev, he had a previous life in investment banking for 10 years in New York. We actually met at a venture capital fund. And this is kind of where we saw the pain point in terms of while we were investing in SaaS clients, this fundraising pain point for SaaS clients. But on the other side, we thought, how do we create an instrument or financial instrument for institutional investors where they can earn higher return yields? So we wanted to we needed a CTO and product guy, and we wanted to build the company in Germany. And this is why we joined Antler, one of the main reasons. And we found our third co-founder, Dmitrij Miller, who has over 10 years experience in entrepreneurship and software development on the Antler program in April 2021.
Great. And kind of you said kind of Peter and you came in, you had this idea already. Where did that idea come from?
So it came from working in the venture capital industries, because we were investing in SaaS startups, but also supporting them with follow-on fundraising rounds. And this is where we saw that the time process to close these rounds was almost 5 to 6 months. And for high growth startup companies or SaaS clients, effectively, we thought, because we have so much data from these SaaS clients, how do we actually create a trading platform, whereas they can raise this non-dilutive capital rather quickly so they can focus on building product and growth. So this is where the idea kind of formulated in a previous life. And when COVID impacted the world and our fund, and we took the decision to try and build this company and solve this pain point.
And so you joined, so I think, I remember pretty exactly, we talked for the first time in January 2020, as Peter and you were kind of gearing up. You had this idea, you came then into the cohort starting in April, where you then found Dmitrij, and started to build this together. Since then, as you say, it's been quite the ride. It's you've been effectively building, as you say, for 20 months. You've raised over 30 million in capital altogether. What's the proudest moment so far?
You know, there's the non-sexy ones where we set up our fund structure in record time, considering Peter and I's past experience. And of course, which makes the headlines is raising capital from VCs and investors, right? So of course, any founder that raises money, kudos to you that you've got someone to believe and build your product. And I think this is great. And this makes the headlines. But for me personally, Alan, honestly, it was our first 10 clients. Like working that our product was actually live and actually solving this fundraising pain point for these clients, and looking at them when they receive capital from us in 48 hours and taking advantage of our dashboard. I think this for me was like the actual wow moment, that like, wow, we're super proud of this. And even more so that these clients are now coming back to do repeat trades with us. So outside of the ones I already mentioned, it was these first 10 clients, having them on board was just that real wow moment.
And both Peter and you, I mean, as you mentioned, you had kind of background in the venture capital industry. You decided to, so you knew the industry, you decided to join Antler. What's been the most valuable thing for you from your Antler experience in those 2 years now?
Yeah, in 2 years, I mean, specifically, I would say just on the programming in itself, I mean, one, the most valuable was obviously meeting Dmitrij. I think this was key. The next was actually being successful within those 3 months and getting the first investment from Antler. Obviously, this set us on the way to build Tapline. But for me, this valuable moment in the Antler experience in these 3 months is meeting so many different types of individuals with various backgrounds in like this 3-month melting pot where everyone's there to try and build a business, to solve a pain point. And there's kind of like the serendipity effect that occurs there, whereas you're just learning about like, you know, how you can have valuable and more input into building the solution that you want to build in the market. So for me, these 3 months were really key. And it was the network effectively within that was a huge value add for us in those 3 months of experience on the Antler program.
Great, and great to hear that it works out. We have a big crowd here of people listening, and some who are, where I already recognize the names as founders who are coming into the next cohort. Others who are considering if maybe Antler is something to a place to build their company or start their company with. What advice would you give founders who are joining Antler or thinking about joining Antler?
I think one aspect I would like to touch on is, I mean, everyone knows how the Antler program works and what's to be expected, right? So I would like to discuss probably once you're in. And I think for me, what would be key is be open to collaboration, right? You have to discuss with as many people as possible to see where there are synergies, complementary skill sets, in order to kind of validate and build your business model, because building a company is like a long-term marriage, right? Effectively, you kind of really need to be kind of sure from the outset that it's going to work. So embrace the feedback that you get, embrace to collaborate with various individuals and be open. But for me, I would say the biggest value add as well coming out of Antler was the leverage the network. It's the access to network. I think this is the biggest advantage for me in terms of Antler. While I was on the program, in terms of you've now found a co-founder, you would like to solve a pain point, you kind of have an idea about a model, tap into Antler's resources and be like, hey, Alan, like we did, we're looking for SaaS clients to test our hypothesis. Please make an introduction for us. Or Alan and team, please, can we be introduced to an investor? What do they think on the other side of this model that we are kind of building to kind of validate it though? So one, you can do that within the actual 3-month course. But as Alan clearly knows, and to everyone listening, I mean, Antler has been a huge value add to us in the past 20 months in terms of access to clients, to networks, to mentors, and to investors as well. And I think for me, this is the overarching value add within Antler in the program itself. And since we kind of graduated and started building Tapline between the three co-founders.
Great. Thank you. And to anyone in the audience, we are now progressing to the Q&A stage with the 3.5 minutes that we have. So if any of you have questions, just fire away in the Q&A function and in the chat. Maybe one first one already. So you talked about kind of what's happening, especially in the cohort with the co-founder and kind of Antler's connections in validating the idea. After the official cohort is over, what have been your main interaction points with Antler, and has Antler been helpful, and how has Antler been helpful? Is that?
Since we graduated, we had to fundraise relatively quickly just due to the nature of our business model. So I think the direct value add was introductions to further investors. This was a key driver for us. And of course, this goes in hand that we needed a bit of traction on the platform in terms of clients. Like, you know, we obviously very early stage, then we kind of like a pitch deck and a great team and a great product and a great big market. So then it was more getting more SaaS clients on the other side, introductions to see, hey, would you actually kind of use the solution then too? So it's this access to networks on those two sides, which are key for us. And facilitated us to close our first smaller round 3 months just after we graduated from the Antler program.
Yeah. One question here is, your case, you came in with an idea and parts of the team already. Did it work as well for others that didn't come in with a clear idea or didn't have any team? What was the dynamic like in your cohort?
Yeah, for sure. In our cohort, I think there was only one other company that had a preconceived idea, but most of the other companies that we're invested in, majority are still going, and they found each other, or the teammates or the co-founders within the cohort though. So I'm not saying the right way is to go in with one preconceived idea and a partner, definitely not, because it really does work, and one can see the other cohorts and the success of various other Antler portfolio companies that you can find your co-founder within the 3 months. Yeah, but that goes back to my other question: be open and collaborative in these 3 months. Do not sit on the sideline. There's a wealth of knowledge, expertise that are there in those 3 months, and you really need to tap into that.
Two more questions here. Let's see if we can get to both. First one, you talked about kind of the proudest moment so far, but what's been the hardest thing?
It's not all glitz and glamour, as they say, right? For sure, trust me. But anyways, I think one of the hardest aspects for us was when we had to raise capital, and I know I'm going back to fundraising, sorry, in order to activate our debt facility, where the market had kind of turned and it was very different. But for us, there was some real pointed times whereas maybe it could not work, but we pushed through and we made it though. So this was like a very heightened stress level within building Tapline, and I can probably keep your ears busy for the next 20 minutes, which we don't have, but I would just leave it at that as one of the hard points.
Okay, and with that, I think we are up on time. Thank you so much for joining, Dean. Thanks so much for everybody who's joined. Hope this was helpful. We'll put a recording of this online. And there's one more question that's just come in now. When do you expect to generate revenue from which you will be able to pay back the funding and later pay dividends?
Well, we're earning first revenues now, very happy about that. So effectively, I think we would probably be, according to our financial plan and business model, back end of 2024, beginning of 2025, actually. Yeah. Okay.
So it seems like there's people here you're doing their diligence on Tapline, much more
sure.
than the diligence on Antler.
And if there's potential clients out there, so let me know.
Also great. No, thanks a lot, Dean. Thanks for taking the time. I think this is helpful for prospective founders who are thinking about joining and to hear it directly. Hope this was helpful for everybody joining in, and hope you all have a great start to the day. Do reach out if any of you have further questions. And if you are running SaaS companies, do check out Tapline. It's a great source of funding, and that comes from a VC. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.